The Observer would like to advise that the following video comes with a trigger warning. The content in this video is of a sensitive nature, so please beware that the topic of this video may trigger you. The Observer recommends that you consider your own mental health before you watch this video.
From today, so the last we heard was closing statements happened on Friday in court, which means it would normally go to a jury verdict now. So we're just kind of waiting. Now, if we do get any news in the Sara Sharif case, it's probably going to come in about 4 or 5 o'clock tonight, like it normally does. There's only when something massive happens in the courtroom that they leak it sooner than that. So I imagine we'll be kind of hearing some kind of news today that it's gone over to the jury. Which I think is going to be quite a long jury process, to be fair. Afternoon, everyone, because they've got several different things they can decide on, and each person has 2 charges pending against them, which are allowing the death of a child and murder and or manslaughter. So we will be waiting on them deciding on each separate person. That's not easy for a jury to do. Normally they'll go back over lots of different bits of evidence. They'll ask for refreshments on different kinds of bits of evidence that they want to have a look at again. To me personally, it's a very cut and dry case. Why can't I cancel these battles? Oh, it's doing my head in. It wouldn't let me turn battles off, and I've had about 1 million come through since I've been live. Yeah, so I think we'll be looking at I reported that guy about children. Which guy, Julie? We don't know yet, Kerry, because we haven't had that news. The last news we had was that the jury had kind of heard the closing speeches from the legal defence team from each of the people, but we haven't heard an update since then. Normally there'd be some kind of media article saying jury is out for the verdict. I think it's going to take maybe 4 days to come back with a verdict, I think. Hello, Gothic. I think Irfan will be really easy. I think he's going to get done for murder. I think it's very clear. I'll talk about him below if you want me to. I think it's going to be very clear that Irfan Sharif is a murderer. It's going to be very to the point, because he's spoken on the stand. He's told us several times what he's done to his daughter. I think the awkward one is going to be Banash and Faisal. They've both declined to take the stand, and they have both not spoke to the police either. They refused. They did no comment interviews. So what you've got from them is you have to kind of decide from the evidence and other people's statements what's true and what's not true. So at the moment, they have nothing to work with. However, I would imagine that Banash will be found guilty of murder. I think Faisal Malik, they're going to struggle with that one, and I really think they will struggle with that. There's a certain thing in law where you have to uphold a certain standard, so it's not based on emotion or what you think should happen. It's based on these things. No, I don't think her dad feels guilty at all. I'll tell you why I don't, Sarah, is because he admitted that when he got the call to say that Sarah was unresponsive on her stepmother's lap, he rushed home, armed himself with a metal pole and began beating Sarah in the chest and stomach area. That's not a man who has any kind of ability to be remorseful for anything. That's a man who saw his daughter was dying and decided to finish her off quite quickly out of rage. Hey Katie, oh thank you Katie, thank you guys for all of the gifts for Life Fest. We are clinging in there at number 170 to get through to the next phase. He's not capable of remorse. Like, even on the stand he said, oh, I am a cruel father, I am a bad father, but I'm not a violent father. I thought, how have you come up with that? Like, you've admitted to beating her in the head with a cricket bat, smashing a phone into the back of her head, you've admitted to so many horrific acts, and then you go, I'm not a violent father. I would call that very violent. Thank you, Mystical. I would call that very violent. You've tortured her. I hope what the guy said, thank you Cindy, thank you Renee, I'm hoping what the prosecutor said when he said Sarah died from accumulation of every single beating she'd ever taken, and if you believe any of these people have beat her at any time, they are culpable of murder. I hope that sticks out in the head. Hello Ellie. I hope that really sticks in the forefront of their mind, where it doesn't matter when they beat her, if she has died from a culmination of all injuries. Thanks, Choc. Thank you everyone for the heart me's. That means you're culpable of murder. There is no other way. And I don't see how, if you're taking part in the brutal torture of a 10-year-old girl and she dies, how you can say you didn't mean to kill her. Because if you take a cricket bat, a metal pole, a hoover, a rolling pin to an adult, you would expect them at some point to die. And we're dealing with a 10-year-old little girl who was severely malnourished. She was tied up with parcel tape. She had carrier bag placed over her head. There was no way she could have survived this. The only thing I feel when I look at the brutality of Sara's injuries is I am absolutely shocked that she survived for so long, because she survived through so much. And I don't know how her body did that. Like, she was in recovery. Her fractures, the 25 fractures that she had, were in stages of recovery. So she was, thank you, Kim. She was they were healing. So she had put up with all of that. The burns, the bites, the scarring to her body. This little girl was a fighter and she wanted to live. And that makes you almost kind of sadder, because she clung on for so long. And she must have clung on believing that ultimately she could overcome what they had done to her. Sara never really had a good life here on earth. She never really knew love. And so at least she's at peace now, because I can't think of anything else worse than her still doing this a year on and still no one coming, because no one was going to come. Sara wasn't on anyone's list to visit. Social service failed her, the school failed her, safeguarding officers failed her, the police failed her, the courts failed her mother failed her, the aunts failed her. There was no one coming. And it didn't matter if Sara had been through this for another year or 2 years, still no one would have come. So I'm just glad that she has some peace now and they're in eternal hell, because they will be in eternal hell. It's I know, at least it's mine for me too. It's doesn't even bear thinking about. No, the aunts have never been questioned, and what I'm doing at the moment is I'm waiting for a verdict, and then I think it's time for people on social media to start shouting that the police need to interview the sisters of Binash Batul, who absolutely knew Sara was being beaten within an inch of her life several times, and chose to text and say, delete the pictures, so there's no evidence, and also say, read the Quran and this will all go away. But they didn't do anything. They didn't phone the police. They didn't phone the police. They didn't phone the doctor. They didn't turn up at the house. They didn't try to save Sara Sharif at all. They got several messages on their phone saying he's beaten her black and blue, he's locked her in a room, he's beating her, he's going to break her arms and legs, and they chose not to do anything. So I'm just going to tell you about, someone asked me to just quickly go over, and I haven't got time to do a full case this afternoon because I have to do school run at some point. So Irfan's own solicitor called him a scumbag, which I think that kind of sums up that if your own defence team are calling you a scumbag, what actually is of you as a man and as a father. So it says, Sara Sharif's father is a scumbag and will be in circles of hell for all eternity, is what his own solicitor told him. On Friday, defence lawyers were giving closing speeches at the Old Bailey trial of taxi driver Irfan Sharif, 42, his wife Binash Batul, 30, and brother Faisal Malik, 29, for the murder of the 10-year-old last August. Sharif had initially blamed Batul for Sara's death at the family home in Surrey, but on the 7th day of his evidence dramatically accepted full responsibility. He made a series of admissions but later appeared to backtrack and claim he did not intend to harm Sara when he beat her with a cricket bat and a metal pole. Sharif denied putting a hood over Sara's head and biting or burning her with an iron or boiling water during the campaign of abuse. Thank you guys for the gifts. His lawyer, Neem Mayan, KC, suggested only Batul knew the truth of how Sara died, but opted not to give evidence. And she's got a point. When Sara declined fully into not being able to respond to anything, she was unresponsive, Binash was at home with her all day by herself. Mr. Mayan told jurors it's so difficult to try and untangle all of this and see what people are saying, because the only person who can say what happened that Saturday, Sunday, Monday and Tuesday when Sara is in her arms is Binash. Sharif was undoubtedly a scumbag, but at least had gone into the witness box and opened himself up, Mr. Mayan says. And the jury do need to respect that. And I know that sounds a hard thing to say, but the jury do need to look at Faisal and at Banash and say, you're gutless and you didn't give evidence because you had things to hide. And that was pointed out in court on the Friday. You have to question why these people have not spoke up. Because if they were in defence of Sara even now, they would choose to tell a story, even point fingers at Irfan, say something. But the fact you've chosen to say nothing proves that you didn't want to be opened up to cross-examination, where you would be called into account for things such as Banash not giving her teeth impressions to match to the bite marks on Sara's body, despite the fact that Irfan and Faisal Malik did, and they weren't a match. So those questions would be asked of her. Did you throw kettle water on Sara Sharif? Did you hood her? Did you tie her up? Did you beat her? They would have to answer those questions. And they've chosen not to do that. And a jury should go out with that in mind. Like, why have they not chosen to speak on this subject? If you were innocent, you'd be shouting you were innocent, right? And if you had nothing to hide, you would get on the stand and say, look, I was abused too. I couldn't control him. I was scared. I lived in fear. I thought he'd hurt my children. You would say something, but saying nothing, very clearly in my eyes, you're hiding from something. He said Sharif was undoubtedly a scumbag, but at least had gone into the witness box and opened himself up. On his client's shock admissions, he said, it came as a total surprise to me that Irfan took responsibility, and I have no doubt it came as a surprise to you. According to the press, you were all opened mouthed at this news, and everyone was. Remember that day when we were all in the live and it came back, Irfan has admitted complete responsibility, and we were like, what, don't do this now, like, let them get everyone. He said what happened to Sara was awful, and that must be the understatement of the year, which it is. That is the understatement of the year, that what happened to her was awful. She was tortured in a way that you would only likely see in somewhere like a concentration camp. For months and months, she was broken down daily. Like, there is no saying it's awful is a complete understatement and a disrespect to what this little girl went through. It was savage, it was brutal. You may think quite rightly and deservedly so this man will never forgive himself. He will be in the circles of hell for eternity. I think he has forgiven himself. I think Irfan has really forgiven himself. I don't think he's ever that bothered. That's why he uses phrases like, I legally beat her to death. Because you're saying, like, I did beat her to death, but it was legal. He held himself not to account at all. Thank you guys for the gifts. And also, I think the main person he is mad at in this whole situation is Sara for dying. He was furious that she was dying. So furious, he armed himself with a metal pole and continued to beat her as she died. He then dragged her out into the shed, stripped her naked and jet washed her body. So he was terribly mad at Sara for daring to give up and leaving with a body on his hands. It caused them mass panic, so they fled to Pakistan because she wasn't allowed to die. There's no such thing as a legal beating. Thank you, Keeks. He said he is undoubtedly guilty of something, but the question for you, for members of the jury, is what? And that's something you've got to unpack yourselves. And that he beat Sara with a cricket bat once or twice, but he did not mean to seriously harm her. Riddle me that. That you tie someone up with packaging tape, place them in a nappy even though they're 10, so they don't even have to go to the toilet anymore because you've already fractured their spine 10 separate times, as well as breaking loads of other bones, and you continue to beat them, but you don't mean to do her serious harm. Like, make that make sense, because I cannot make that make sense to myself. In any situation where you take a weapon to a child, you mean nothing other than to cause them serious harm. If you can repeatedly do it, you're trying to kill that child. There is no other way around that. They are young, they are vulnerable, and they are defenceless. So there is no other way. Mr. Myers said the fractures that Sharif caused were healing by the time of her death, so were not a significant contributory factor. There remains unknown details of what happened between Sara last August the 8th and Batul when she called Sharif from the home. We don't know why there are blood spots in the kitchen downstairs, because the only person who can say actually what happened on August the 8th is Batul, and she will not tell you. Why Batul did not call an ambulance, instead made 30 separate calls to her family and Irfan, remain a mystery. So she could use her phone freely, okay? She could use her phone freely. She was phoning family members like, Sara's dying, we don't know what to do, her body's here, she's dead, will you help us, what can we do with her body? She was calling, asking loads of people for ideas and suggestions. Her family at that point, her sisters included, decided they wanted nothing else to do with this. Like, we aren't helping you get rid of a body now, we're not getting in trouble for this. However, they wouldn't help Sara. They would never help Sara, but at this point they were totally in kind of self-preservation mode of like, nah, sorry, you deal with this. Social services, police and family courts all knew about the past accusations of abuse that Sharif had been accused of. Thanks, Alicia. Are you out? How is she out? But they went absolutely nowhere and did not prevent him from gaining custody of Sara. So if you're wondering what the other accusations that had been made against Irfan before were, he had been accused of attacking a 1-month-old baby before. In 2014, he'd also been accused of biting and burning 2 other children. He had also been arrested 3 times for domestic abuse against 3 separate Polish women who were all vulnerable in their own way, whether it be their age, their mental capacity, etc. And each of those women he had followed they'd never met each other, so these women who made reports weren't known to each other. Each of the reports included he had stolen their phones and their passports so they couldn't leave, locked them in rooms, strangled them with belts, threatened to kill them, threatened one with a knife, which was Sara Sharif's mother, and yeah, at least he is. And each time he was arrested and taken to the police station, and the police said, it's your word against hers, and didn't make any kind of move to actually charge him with any of these crimes. Then when the 3rd woman come in and made the same report, they didn't match up the reports and go, these look very similar, he must be a violent man. Instead, they gave him full custody of 2 children in the family court. And the family court knew his full backstory. Social services knew his full backstory. You couldn't have placed Sara and her brother with a more volcanic man who was prone to violence. And he especially, from his past, we see hated women. So we take a little girl who is at the time that he got custody about 6 years of age, a little girl who's lost in the world, who's never really known love even from her own mother, who was also accused of abusing her, burning her with a lighter, neglecting her, forgetting to feed her, etc, etc. You take this little girl, hey Beverly, and you place her in the arms of a 5-6 times over abuser. And not only did they then place her with him, they didn't check on her. No one did any checks. No one visited the family home. No one asked school for reports. And school had on file the fact that Sara turned up at school severely bruised on 3 separate occasions. And so the school wrote a report to Safeguarding. Safeguarding said, we're not interested, we're going to close this down. They never laid eyes on Sara. And the school said, we've asked her 3 separate times how she's bruised her face, and she's given us 3 separate stories, like we think she's asking for help. And Safeguarding said, no, thank you. And school said, oh, close it down for us as well. She's already left, she's been homeschooled now, we don't want any part of it. No one ever safeguarded Sara Sharif. She was nobody's problem and no one's care. So Caroline Carberry KC, who is Banash's defence counsel, said that Sharif's description of Batul as an evil psycho is wrong, and the only evil psychopath in the courtroom is him. In her speech on behalf of Batul, she said the sole perpetrator of the violence that led to Sara's death is Irfan Sharif. She said he's admitted it himself under cross-examination that he hit her in the head and face repeatedly with a cricket bat, and also with a metal pole 2 days before before her death, and as she lay dying also. Ms. Carberry said when he realised he had in fact admitted murder, having answered a series of straightforward questions, and long before he became overwrought, he then desperately and implausibly backtracked after consultation with his legal team. And we did see that, right? We saw him come in that morning. He knew he was going to be cross-examined, so he said, I take full responsibility. And then after lunch, he came back in and he was like, I take full responsibility, but I didn't kill her. I didn't burn her, I didn't bite her. I beat her once or twice. I'm not a bad man, I'm not a violent guy. So we saw that from him. Whereas the day before he'd been like, I'd never seen a mark on her body. Only ever a scratch on her nose. Like, I didn't know what was going on. She used to wear socks. Didn't see nothing. So we saw him flip-flop around a lot of the places. Like he never was consistent throughout the whole trial. She said Sharif was a comfortable liar and a manipulator. You cannot trust anything he said, since he's clear in the witness box confession, or indeed anything said on his behalf, because his legal team act on his instruction, and he is still, despite his confessions, trying to get away with murder. Miss Carberry pointed out evidence of Sara's teachers shows she was a spirited, bold and fierce little girl before they had broken Sara. She said no doubt that spirit, that boldness from his daughter was what Irfan Sharif tried to silence with the beatings, the control, the cruel punishments and the degrading treatment of Sara. Terrorising not just Sara but everyone else who lived under that roof with him. And that annoys me because, hey Nilo, you okay? How dare you put Banash in the same category as a 10-year-old little girl? Like, she was not a victim in this, if you ask me. We know the neighbours said when the beatings started, when Sara first started having the abuse, Irfan was at work as a taxi driver. We also heard on day 2 of the trial that Banash would set Sara up. She would phone Irfan Sharif and say, Sara's cut all your clothes up, Sara's cut your shoelaces up, she's hidden your work keys. And she would let Sara take the beating for those things. She enjoyed Sara taking the blame for those things. She didn't for one day try to protect Sara Sharif. She placed her in the angry arms of an abuser, knowing that she'd already worked him up. It's your child, it's your problem. We saw the text messages. Sara's dared to be sick, she's disgusting, she's your daughter, come home and clean her up, she's a pig. Like, she had no care towards this little girl. So she did not at any time. We know the implements used in the kitchen to beat Sara, a woman's tools to be fair, like a rolling pin, and I'll say that all day long, that was from a woman. That was from a woman who did that. We also know the scarring to Sara's feet where kettle water had been poured over her feet was more likely to be Banash Batul. We know the bite marks on Sara's body aren't from Irfan. It's been proven scientifically. They're not from Faisal Malik. That's only one other adult left in the house. And the one saying, I'm not going to give you my teeth impressions. Why she was allowed to say no, I don't know. But she is just as culpable. So don't make it sound like Irfan ruled everyone in that house and she was terrified. Because nobody under no amount of duress, stress, fear, or even at knife point could ever make me beat a child like this. No one. So she doesn't get to pretend to be a victim in this. Sara was the victim in this. I imagine the other children were as well, to be fair. No one in that house had a easy go of it when they were children. Now, Michael Ivers Casey, who is the defence counsel for Faisal Malik, the brother of Irfan Sharif, he said, this was his only closing statement, what evidence links Faisal Malik to murder? Nothing. That's it. I'll tell you what links Faisal Malik to this murder. First of all, Faisal moved in April of 2023. The beatings become torture around that time. Maybe because there was 2 men in the home, maybe they were both violent, maybe they're encouraging each other. But we know he moved in at the height of the abuse turning into torture when Sara was taken out of school in April of 23. His work uniform was found in one of the bins in the family home. Why was he trying to throw away his uniform? He fled to Pakistan with the family. Why are you running if you've got nothing to run from? And again, if you live in a house where a child is being brutalised, tortured, burnt, bitten, beat, she's got 25 separate fractures to her body, you are just as complicit, whether you even raised your hand or not, even once, even if you never restrained her even, you are fully complicit in her murder because you saw a pattern of behaviour and abuse that was going to lead to the death of your niece and you did nothing. See you in a bit, Sue. So to me, they all should be guilty of murder. I don't think that's what's going to happen though. I think you're going to get, hey Helen, I think you're going to get Irfan and Banash will be guilty of murder. I think Faisal Malik will be found guilty of allowing the death of a child. Yeah, how I'll be on normally doing crime at 9 o'clock. And if there's any breaks in the Sara Sharif case, I should be on about 5 o'clock to discuss them, but we won't know until we look later on if they've anything come out. Hello, Wednesday. So yeah, that's basically where we are with the Sara Sharif case. And whoever asked me earlier on, have I seen the updates in the Liam situation? I just don't believe it. I just don't believe any of the new things being said today about what happened to Liam Payne. Kelly, if you mean allowing the death of a child, you would look at anything from maybe 3 to 10 years. We've seen some really awful, even Baby P's mum got 5 years. So she got a life sentence with a minimum of 5 years. She was out quite soon after that. She's reoffended several times and gone back. So it won't be. So Kaz, have you seen the new TMZ report saying that Liam tried to climb down from the balcony after he lowered down a bag? So they say he lowered down a brown holdall onto the second balcony. and then while he tried to climb down to the balcony, he fell and died. But we've already been told by the coroner that can't have happened because Liam was already incapacitated. He was already either passed out or semi-conscious when he fell. Now, we also have the video of Jeff leaning over the balcony, and there is no brown bag there. And they also said that the bag had been found 2 days after Liam's death by staff. Now, the bag that was dropped down had Jack Daniels in it, loads of pills, and had a note in there saying for Liam. You couldn't find more of a setup item if you tried. That he's managed to drop down a bag and he's put something in there saying for Liam with a drug supply. Way to like highlight these are my drugs. It doesn't make any sense. And the fact that the police actually found his body and didn't find this big holdall which you could see from looking down from the place he fell, which is the first place the police would have gone, up to the balcony he fell from to see was there a chair there, was there something slippy there, did something happen there, was there blood there, and you think they just looked down and just missed this whole brown holdall that said for Liam inside of it. It just doesn't make any sense. And it's TMZ saying it, okay? So for me, TMZ is not a reputable source. It's not something I would normally use. So we read it earlier because someone sent it to me while we were live, and we did do a Liam live early this morning. For me, my whole thing is that I've done a video today, but I do believe that Liam was thrown from the balcony in the position he was being carried through the hotel. We know that the man opposite him, Doug Jones, heard a scream around about 5 o'clock, and I believe that would have been Liam going off of the balcony. And then they've placed his hat, his bag, and the whiskey bottle next to him that wasn't even smashed, even though it had fallen. So you expect us to believe that Liam's fall broke his body, but didn't break his glass bottle. Like, that's just mad to me. I put a video together with the statement from Doug Jones with the timeline, because I don't think the second picture in the lobby where like they're all stood around Liam, I don't believe that is Liam. It can't be. You can't have Liam stood up in the lobby and then 11 seconds later he's being carried horrifically through the hotel. And Doug Jones says staff were letting themselves into Liam's room all day, constantly throughout the day, letting themselves in. I believe Liam was being held hostage in that hotel. He was trying to leave. He kept coming down to the lobby to leave the hotel, and he kept being taken back. He's right by the doors in the lobby when they start to carry him to take him back. He's trying to leave. Like, he wants to leave the hotel, and they are confining him to his room. Now, in that TMZ article today, it said that Liam said to the hotel staff, if you don't let me leave, I'll leave via the balcony. I'm going over the balcony. So they knew. So, like, how can you say, oh, I just returned him to his room, and you're also saying he was convulsing at one point, and that's why you've had to carry him like that. So you've literally led him to his death. Like, that makes no sense to me. Like, the whole thing is, we know now that the hotels are owned by a kind of mafia type family. Did Liam owe money? Had they kind of bribed him, set him up, kind of shown him the photos of his room and said, look, we need this amount, or this is going out to the media, along with Roger, and this has all gone really wrong. But not for a second do I believe that Liam lowered down a bag of pills to the second floor balcony thinking he was going to go down that way. Because either way, he was going to have to leave the hotel, and they weren't letting him leave. So to me, it just looks like there's something very strange going on here. Liam was 31. None of it adds up. But this new article from TMZ, like, this doesn't make any sense. Either they've made that up. They keep saying sources say, sources close to the hotel, sources close to Liam. I haven't seen that reported officially yet. What was your comment? May not have come through, Joe. I didn't see you make a comment. I can't see one. Sometimes I get ghosted by TikTok. I just think, on reflection, right? No, it's fine. On reflection, now everyone's looking at, there's something weird has gone at this hotel. Everyone online is saying, this didn't just happen, Liam didn't just fall. So now all of a sudden there was this bag that Liam had lowered down, and there's a story of like, oh, he was just climbing over, he was lowering himself down. He's not an idiot. Like, he's not thinking, I'll just dangle off here. And they said, but he did it a year before when he was trying to get out of his house and no one would let him. He lowered himself out using a garden hose. Like all of a sudden he's Inspector fucking Gadget. Thank you, Anime Bolts. I just don't see it. I just don't see that's what happened. And the hotel was searched. You could see from the balcony, if you looked over, where the bag would have been, and there was no bag there, because it wouldn't have taken 2 days to find that bag. They were looking for answers on the first day when they recovered his body. So to me, like, either this has all been made up in order to make us think, oh no, this isn't a crime case. This was Liam trying to get down. Could this be a case of manslaughter? I think the hotel is definitely culpable for corporate manslaughter, which is when a business does something that adds to someone's death. So I think there is a real case for Liam's family here to take out a corporate manslaughter civil case against the hotel, because their actions, everything that's being admitted even by them, adds up to the fact that you had a duty of care, you didn't fulfill it, you had hotels like the couches and stuff here, and you've picked him up forcefully by his arms and legs because you say he's convulsing. Why not just place him on that sofa and call 999? 100% Neela. Oh, hang on 1 second. You baby, Sean?
Thank you, Williams.
Oh, thank you.
My pleasure, that's all you paid for. That's just a cheap job, that one.
I know, yeah.
I've seen about £2,500.
I wouldn't have been getting it, that's for sure.
The person that done it, they paid that, but what it was, they were ordering London Water cameras, they would be the middleman in it.
Right.
They paid for 2.5, but you know what they've made out of that by doing that?
What?
About 8 times that amount.
Wow.
So it was worth
Yeah, it was worth it.
God, he was a chatty postman. Oh, he was trying to tell me about everyone else's charges. It made me jump as well. In his system, he had alcohol, a small amount. He had cocaine. They didn't say how much. And he had prescription tablets, which was given to him for depression. That's all he had. So all this pink cocaine shit, all that stuff. Hey, mama. Isn't true. So it's I don't personally believe the TMZ update, which was why I haven't rushed to make a video. I would never use them as a source if it didn't come out anywhere else. They were, Lauren. The photo of the TV smashed, I've got a video of it with the exact date and it shows you on Facebook. I haven't got it to hand now because I have to look through all my photos and I've got to go out in a minute. It was updated in 2012. The exact picture of the TV, match for match. And so it can't have been Liam's TV. Yeah, I believe it was all set up. We've just been through the updates in the Sara Sharif case and it was no more than what was on Friday. We just went through the closing statements again and we're hoping today to hear the news that the verdict is the jury have been sent out to make a verdict. But I hope it's the right verdict. It has to be. Hello, Frankie. It really has to be the right verdict because the country should be up in arms if it's not the right verdict. Thanks, Frankie. The fact that they would come back with anything other than no, Sophia. So in the Sara Sharif case, there's several different verdicts they've got to decide on. So they've got Faisal Malik, Irfan Sharif and Banash Batul. And they're all being charged with allowing the death of a child and murder. But the judge has said to them, if you need to consider manslaughter, do that. But I hope to God they do not even consider a manslaughter charge. Manslaughter means you killed someone by accident. Like, you didn't do this by accident. You beat this child fully for months. What did Dino say? Where's Liam laid to rest? I'm not going to say that. And the reason I'm not going to say that is because One Direction fans have been robbing from his grave already, which absolutely you need to take away the word fan, because if you were a fan of Liam Payne at all, the fact that you've gone to take things off his grave is deplorable. Yeah, they have. They've been taking things off of his grave. It is disgusting. Like, you cannot say you're a Liam Payne fan and steal from his grave. That is one of the worst things like you could ever do, is to take things off someone's grave when people have placed it there, loved ones have. You don't even know what was from Bear. Like, that's his family. And it's the same fans that come in here and kick off all the time because I'm showing certain pictures and they're like, don't show that. And I'm like, it's a crime page, like we talk about true crime. Like, I have to show you the evidence, like that's just what it is. But to go to someone's grave, like anyone's grave, and to remove something, you're actually a grave robber. Like, you're not a fan. Like, it's just gross. I've just never heard anything so disgusting. Like, he's just died. Like, I don't like talking about Liam Payne like what happened to him. Like, if I thought he had justice or it was just an accident, like, I wouldn't be talking about it on a true crime page. But I honestly think there's like a lot of answers to be had. And unfortunately, social media does feed a lot of what the police will and won't do now. Like, if you're talking about something and it's trending and they have to talk about it and they have to address it, they will. I don't think so, Pretty Melanin. I think it's more likely to be adults taking things off his grave. Like, when do you ever let your children go to a graveyard by themselves? Like, mine don't. Like, mine definitely don't. Mine aren't just roaming graveyards stealing shit. Like, it just wouldn't happen. This is adults who think they can take something and they have a part of Liam Payne. Like, it's disgusting. Like, it's really gross. Whoever it is, it's gross. Like, if your child or you thinks that's okay, they should put cameras up and they should literally put them all over the media. Yeah, it's there is a real entitled thing, Kiki. You're right about Liam Payne. So there are people who are fans of One Direction who are trying to control like a narrative online. Like, they're allowed to talk about stuff, you're not. You're not allowed to show certain photos, and they like come in and they're like, but you didn't know Liam. And I'm like, unfortunately, neither did you. Like, let's just be honest. Liam is a famous person. People know him from the media. You don't know him like his mum and dad do. You don't know him like his son does, or Cheryl does, or his bandmates do. Like, we know what we know on online. And when people go around like, you know, acting like Liam belongs to them, he doesn't. He doesn't. He belongs to his family, and he should have justice. No, that's true, Robin. I'd go mad if someone took something off my dad's grave. Even flowers, I'd be so upset about it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, often if I go and lay like flowers at my dad's grave, or his ashes are there, it's his mum's grave. Like, if the children come with me or whatever, like, it really means a lot to them to do it, and it's just like, I just couldn't even imagine that. Pearl's Yellow Duster, I said that earlier. This what has happened over the last kind of month and a bit has given me a newfound respect for Cheryl Cole, not just as a woman but as a mother. You could see at the funeral, like, she was just bereft, like, absolutely. She's dealing with her own grief of a man that she absolutely loved but wasn't with at the time due to things that happened. But she was also dealing with the fact that she'd lost her son's father, and having to tell Bear that and make the decision to take Bear to the funeral. And then she was apparently there trying to make amends with the One Direction bandmates and just keep them all together that day so they could grieve together. She held herself in such a high regard, and I've got nothing but respect for her. Her statement she put out about Liam, I didn't even feature on my page because I thought, you've asked us not to talk about this, and you've literally said things about Bear that are so private they should only come from you, not from me, not from anyone else. Like, they're your words and you own them. Like, honestly, I've got so much respect for her. The son is 7. Someone said to me earlier, you need to stop this live because Bear might be in here watching this. And I thought, if you knew what kind of mum Cheryl was, Bear is definitely not watching TikTok lives. Why can't I talk about it's I can't imagine it. Like, I lost my dad in my 30s, and like, obviously it's been horrendous, but at 7 to have to navigate life without your dad is so hard. Like, I just can't imagine that. And even Cheryl finding the words to say he wasn't going to see his dad again. He was a good dad, Liam Payne. I mean, they had a good kind of co-parenting relationship, which you don't see very often. Robin, there is no way Cheryl Payne keeps him so protected, so safe, like, doesn't let anyone film him from the front, hardly takes him out where there's going to be cameras. She's protected him every single day of his life. He's not on TikTok live watching a true crime page. He's just not. Oh my God, Lucy, I'm so sorry you lost your dad at 10, your mum at 12. I can't even imagine. I honestly, my heart goes out to you. I just cannot even imagine that. You literally lived all your whole life. I'm so sorry, Lucy. Yeah, there is a court order to stop the press posting him, and they did make an agreement with the media on... Thank you, Sky, for saying that. They made an agreement with the papers. You can come and take some pictures at Liam's funeral as long as you don't get anything with Bear in. And I think even the forethought of that, of them being like, we can't stop the vultures, but let's just make this agreement to keep him safe. I've got a lot of respect for Cheryl Cole. I've always liked Cheryl, to be fair. I think she's one of the most beautiful women in the world. I do think she is. I think she's so naturally beautiful. And I love the Geordie accent as well. I think she's stunning. And she's obviously a great mum. So, from what I believe, Saoirse, have I said your name properly? I've been practicing. Saoirse, From what I believe, they made an agreement that they couldn't stop them taking photos, but they didn't want them in the churchyard. But they did not want anything taken of Bear from the front behind, nothing with him in. I was sad they split up, and I do believe they were one of those couples that perhaps in the future could have been together again. She's obviously got a lot of love for Liam and a lot of respect for Liam. Thank you, Ian. She would have every right to be mad at the situation, to be like, you're in fucking Argentina, you're getting wrecked again, you've fallen off the balcony, my son doesn't have a father, because your main thought is going to be about Bear, right? You're going to be fuming, like furious. But she hasn't shown any of that. She celebrated Liam's life. She said what a good dad he was. She said how much of a loss it is to herself, to the family. And she's just said, be mindful of things you say in the media, please, about Liam, because one day his son's going to see that. And I believe that was mainly aimed at Maya, who at the time was trying to put out that Liam was some kind of predator talking to One Direction younger fans because he could manipulate them, and also saying some horrific things about him. I believe she was trying to say, like, bear in mind that everything you put out there on social media is going to at one time come back to haunt me. She is a really respectful lady. Talking of respectful ladies, here's Alex Brigham. Sorry if I misgendered you there. Yeah, sorry. Wow. I'm making it my word of the day to just misgender people everywhere I go. Not Sam Walker though, because I like my windows. Thank you, Alex. I did say to Sam Walker earlier, leave my windows alone but smash my back doors in. I didn't really. Please, no. I was going to get up in I've gone bright red as well. I was going to get up in Miss Red's box and say it, but I didn't know if we would have found it funny or not. And I just literally cannot take him on right now. Can you imagine if I said that? Miss Red would just be like, I'm never coming back to the app. Yeah, I was typing it in the comments that Alicia had said it, because I just thought this is easier. I was like, Alicia, Sam said leave her windows alone, but you can boot her back doors in. Sorry. He likes the bad boys. I'm not really asked about any boys, to be fair, Janet. You're my favourite creative for that exact reason. That's the best line you ever said. I was thinking it all day earlier. But then Corey should have said the same thing, because I think Corey would have quite liked it. Do you know what I mean? Play dickhead games, you get dickhead prizes. And he made it worse for himself. Did you see him sat there online last night kind of going, in the valleys, he put my windows through, I phoned the police, I got a photo of the car, and I thought, you dick, what are you admitting to? Literally, you're on the police, you absolute grass, you're grassing and he's watching you. It's just mad. The variety of topics, you know, Mama, my ADHD goes from one place to another, I'm a dangerous person. Literally, you should live in my head. I haven't seen DG's reaction. Has he got a video? I'll have a look at it when I come off. It's like people come in, they hear me talk about crime and they really respect me, and then they hear me say something, it just goes. But you know, it's okay. We'll all be here together at the end of the day. Right, I'm going to go and pick my little one up from school. DG is fine. I'm going to go. Has he got a reaction video or did I miss it live? Because I'll go and have a look. I'm going to go and see DG now. I've literally got... You fancy Sam? I don't... I've got respect for Sam Walker yet, but not because of this dog thing, because I didn't see any of the dog thing, to be fair, and me talking on it would be absolutely stupid because I never saw the Faith situation. I knew it was kind of going on, but I never really watched it. I've just got respect for him for outing John Venables and putting his picture all over online so people know who he is, because it'll keep people safe. I've got respect for him for that reason, so it's a bit different. But I do think everyone today on this app is so far up his butt because they don't want their window smashed. So I think maybe people aren't giving their completely honest opinions. And personally, like I said, like from the beginning, if you play dickhead games, you're going to get dickhead prizes. Corey was giving him his address going, what are you going to do? He did it, you know what I mean? You can't go. And in all fairness, if I was going to beef someone on the app, I wouldn't pick Sam Walker. Like, I just wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? It's, you only have to Google his name and think, this is probably not the guy I'm going to take on. Like, I'm not going to do that. That's it. It's just, it's stupidity. But I just think everyone's a little bit like today, like, oh my God, no. And just, there was madness said earlier. A woman got Miss Redbox and she said, it's a bit like how I felt about my guinea pig, Nigel. And I was just like, and she was like, if anyone had said anything about Nigel, And I was just like, it's my time to leave. Do you know what I mean? Literally. Compare my dog to a guinea pig again and I'll put your windows through. I hope the woman's not in here. I can't remember what her name was. Literally. The justice for Nigel. I just think sometimes there's a time and a place, and I think when you're all like trying to get on his good side so much, you're kind of like, Sam, once I got this library book and I loved it, and if anyone said anything about my library book, I would have gone nuts. You did the right thing, big man. There's like 90-year-old woman going, stitches get stitches, and I was just like, no. But all the people with no names and no picture on their profile were like, it's still violence. I thought to message him and tell him. Leave me out of it. But now I just think, here's what it was. If you're going to do a boxing match between Corey and Sam, you're only going to get one way. Do you know what I mean? So just don't take people on. I don't have any sympathy for Corey, for the simple fact he's gone for women many a times. So it is. Thank you, Sarah. I am quite funny, aren't I? Yeah, but I'm going to go get the little one from school. I will be online in a bit. We've got to try and stay in this live fest thing. We're about 170 because I had loads of time off this week. So I will come back on, but we won't be doing cases till 9 o'clock. But if there is a break in the Sara Sharif case, I will come on and talk to you guys about it. And if anything breaks in the Liam Payne case, you'll probably see me around as well. All right, guys, I'll speak to you in a bit. Bye, guys.